Guys, let's talk about the 100-hour rule. The 100-hour rule basically means whatever you spend 100 hours on in life, you're going to be better than 95% of people. So it's actually interesting because two of my friends yesterday were doing some wrestling. And they were basically wrestling for 2 minutes and they were equal. At the end, they both called it a draw, because none of them could get in a winning position. It was very equal. They both got tired. And I asked them afterwards, how much have you guys wrestled? And both of them just said like a couple hours in their entire lives, right? They hadn't wrestled much. And I said to them both, this is the perfect example of the 100-hour rule. If one of you had spent 100 hours doing wrestling, you'd have easily won in like 2 seconds, 10 seconds. Because when you spend 100 hours at something, you quickly go from completely shit at something, completely beginner level, to very good compared to 95% of the population. Because most people haven't done most things. I'm very bad at skateboarding, and my whole life I've probably spent 20 minutes doing skateboarding. So if I spent 100 hours doing skateboarding, I'd be way better than I am at skateboarding now, because I'm completely shit at skateboarding right now. So by just putting in a few hours, you instantly become better than basically everybody. And it's interesting because when I was younger, my mum forced me to do a typing course. So I'm actually a very, very quick touch typer. I type around 135 words a minute consistently. 130, 135 at touch typing, right? And the average person is about 50 if they've done no practice, right? So it's a good 2.5 times quicker than the average person. Now, this is a big, big difference. And it saves me so much time when I'm typing for my work, and it just makes life so much easier. But the reason why I became so quick at typing is because when I was younger, my mum forced me to do a 100-hour typing course. And it basically was 1 hour every night after school for 100 days in a row, and that was it. And then at the end of the 100 days, you were supposed to be quick at typing, and I was. And then obviously practicing it ever since has just made me quicker and quicker. But basically, I've been at the same level for my whole life just after that 100-hour program. So the point I'm making is by doing 100 hours of anything, you will literally become the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% at anything in the world. And the reason why this is so encouraging is because if you're trying to become successful in business, what you should do is work on the main skills that you need in business and spend 100 hours on these skills. So for example, sales, marketing, negotiation, hiring people, right? Learning human nature, right? Maybe stuff with the camera, maybe stuff with, taxes and talking to accountants. If you put 100 hours into all of these main skills, you're going to have such an advantage over 95% of the population. Now, some of you might be saying, well, Hassan, to become successful, don't you need to be in the top 0.001%? Because if you want to be a master at anything, you have to put in 10,000 hours, right? And this would put you in the top 0.001% or something like this. But what you have to realize is you don't really have to be in the top 1% or top 0.1% in anything. As long as you're in the top 3 or 4% at like 10 different things, you become so high level, because think about how many people in this world are actually the top 3% at all these different things I've just mentioned. Very few people. So it's called skill stacking. When you work on many different skills and you stack these skills on top of each other, you become overall a much more impressive human being. So if you're really good at camera stuff and really good at video editing and really good at speaking and really good at negotiation and talking to people and networking, then overall it's going to make you more impressive than just some random 14-year-old kid who can hold a camera, right? The more skills you work on, the more impressive it makes you overall. It's the same thing with business. You don't want to just be good at business. You want to be good in the gym, have a good physique. You want to be good at speaking, good at negotiation, good at sales, good at branding, good at talking to high-level people, good at exchanging value with people, good at maintaining relationships, high energy levels, good stress tolerance. The better you are at all these different things, the more successful you're going to be. You want to be good at everything. Okay, so I want you guys to apply this rule into your own life. Think about something you're quite bad at right now and ask yourselves, if I was to put 100 hours into this thing, how good would I become at this thing? And the answer is you'd be in the top 3, 4, 5% of it. And think about how much that would change your life. Imagine you spent 100 hours practicing using ChatGPT. Think about how proficient you'd become at ChatGPT. Imagine if you put 100 hours into sales. Imagine how many more sales deals you'd close. And this is where it gets really interesting. Right now, your sales conversions might be 50%, right? But if you just got 5% better at sales or 10% better at sales, you might not close 50%. You might close 80%, right? Or maybe let's say you used to close 20% of leads. Now you might close 60%. You might triple the money you make just by becoming 5% better, 10% better. Now, some of you might be saying, Hassan, how does that work? Well, the reason why it works is because so many of the deals that you failed on getting, you were just under. You were here, and this is where you needed it to be. If you were just 5%, 10% better, you would have just gone over the threshold. Does that make sense? You just were short. It's kind of the same thing with anything in life. If you take the average height in England, for example, it's like 5'9". If you were just a little bit taller, right? You're just a few inches taller. Now you're 6'1", right? Now you're 4 inches taller than the average man, and you're a lot taller. The difference between 6'1" and 5'9" is big when it comes to height. And it's the same thing with everything in life. If you got your arms just 1 inch bigger, right, or just 5% bigger, right, it'd be a lot bigger overall. Half an inch of muscle on your arms is a huge, huge, huge difference. And it's the same thing with everything in life. If you just put a few more hours into learning something, you become so much better, but the output difference would be so much. So you change a little bit with your skills, a little bit with your work rate, a little bit with your energy levels, and the things that you get in return, your lifestyle will change dramatically, right? You might be 3 times as rich, 4 times as rich. So the 100-hour rule is game-changing. Apply it to your lives, and let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with my opinion. Take care, boys. See you in the next one.